It started as a normal evening. I just settled into my favorite armchair with a book and a cup of tea. The rain was tapping lightly against the window, and the house was filled with the comforting hum of the heater. It was one of those perfect quiet nights that felt like a sanctuary from the chaos of the world. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, breaking the silence. I glanced at the screen and saw a message from an unknown number. This wasn't unusual. Sometimes I'd get random texts, often spam or wrong numbers. I hesitated but decided to check it. "Hey, it's me," the message read. "I'm sorry for everything. I just needed to see you one last time. Please let me explain." My first thought was that it was a prank, but something about the message unsettled me. I didn't recognize the number, and the tone was eerily familiar. I typed back, "Who is this?" The reply came almost immediately. "You know who this is. Please, just listen." My heart began to race. The message seemed genuine, but I couldn't place where I'd heard that voice before. I didn't know whether to be scared or intrigued. Against my better judgment, I decided to respond. "What do you want?" The reply was quick again. "I'm at the old house, the one we used to live in. Please, come here. I need to see you." The old house was where my family had lived years ago, before we moved to this house. It had been empty for months, and the idea of going there in the dark was unnerving. I was about to ignore the message when my phone buzzed again. "Please, just come. I can't explain here. You need to come now." I tried to brush it off, telling myself it was probably a prank. But as the evening wore on, the message kept gnawing at me. I decided to drive by the old house just to see if anyone was there. I arrived at the old house around 10 p.m. The rain had picked up, making the whole place look even more desolate and eerie. The house was dark, and the lawn was overgrown. My car's headlights cut through the darkness, but the place remained shrouded in shadows. I stepped out of the car, the rain soaking through my coat almost instantly. I approached the front door, hesitating for a moment. The door was slightly ajar, creaking as the wind blew through it. My pulse quickened, but I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The interior was as I remembered, dusty and cold. The furniture was covered in white sheets, giving the house an even more abandoned look. I called out, "Hello, is anyone here?" No response. I walked through the house, each step echoing off the empty walls. I moved cautiously, checking each room. The sense of unease grew stronger with each passing moment. In the kitchen, I noticed something odd. A single light was on, flickering dimly. I approached it, and as I got closer, I saw a figure standing in the corner of the room. My heart skipped a beat. It was a woman facing away from me, standing next to the old kitchen table. "Hello?" I called out again, trying to keep my voice steady. The woman slowly turned around. Her face was pale, eyes hollow, and her expression was one of deep sorrow. It was then that I realized it was my sister, Emily. She'd disappeared a year ago and they'd never found her. Tears welled up in my eyes. "Emily!" Her lips moved, but no sound came out. She pointed to the table where an old, tattered photograph lay. I picked it up, my hands trembling. It was a picture of Emily and me, taken years ago. On the back, someone had written, "I'm sorry I couldn't save you." Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the room and the lights flickered out. I turned, trying to find my way back to the door, but the house seemed to shift around me. The air grew colder and a feeling of dread filled the space. I heard a whisper, barely audible over the sound of the rain. "Help me." I turned to look at Emily, but she was gone. The photograph was still on the table, but the room was empty. Panic set in. I ran towards the door, my breath coming in ragged gasps. As I reached the front door, I glanced back one last time. The house was silent now, empty. The photo was the only thing that remained, my final connection to Emily. I fled the house, not stopping until I was safely back in my car. I drove home in a daze, the message still echoing in my mind. I tried to call the number back, but it was disconnected. Back at my house, I tried to shake off the fear, convincing myself it was just a twisted prank. But the next day, I received a call from the police. They found the old house abandoned and in worse shape than before, with no sign of anyone ever being there. Emily's case remains unsolved. The only proof of that night is the photograph I found, which now sits framed on my desk. I don't know if it was really her or just a figment of my mind, but every time I look at it, I remember that desperate message and the sorrowful look on her face. I don't know who sent the message or why, All I know is that I'll never forget that night. The house still stands, a haunting reminder of what happened. And every time my phone buzzes with an unknown number, I can't help but hope it's not a final message from beyond.